So as I always say on this channel, follow the money. And in fact, this will help you understand what's going on in the Trump administration, why they're absolutely corrupt, and why their administration doesn't benefit regular people. This is Trump and Musk. They're hanging out together. It's a photo there from Fox News. It says, President Trump and Elon Musk shake hands during a reunion to honor the life of Charlie Kirk. So this is an hour ago. The thing's been going on for like 8 hours. So if you want to watch the whole thing, you can, but 8 hours is like a full-time job. But Musk, I'll just tell you guys, he doesn't care about Charlie Kirk, not one iota. What Musk is interested in is chasing that money. And the supposed richest dude in the world is always raising money. Look at this. Elon Musk XAI raising $10 billion, right? He's after billions and billions of dollars because his companies, the XAI one is like burning, last report I saw, $1 billion a month, burning $1 billion a month. It's crazy. Now, also you have to understand, to put this in context, while Musk is after the money, right, hanging out with Trump and at that Charlie Kirk event, Trump and his people are trying to make bribery investigations just disappear, right? So this is Trump aid, Holman accepted 50,000 in bribery sting, operation says. So this was like an FBI investigation. And effectively what the Trumpers have been doing, they've been dismantling, be it the FBI or CIA, so that it allows for their corruption to continue, right? And so then at this Charlie Kirk event, you convince all these people and you combine sort of like your, Christian nationalist people, your TV evangelist kind of people that we used to see in the 80s, and you throw that together with government, and you got the Trumpers. You have a big stage there at the Charlie Kirk event. And again, it's still going. I just took a couple of screenshots of like, what the heck? I'm not going to sit down and watch 8 hours of this stuff. But that's what they're doing. They convince you that this is the greatest moment of all time, I guess, is watching this event. And it reminds me of Jim and Tammy Baker. If you guys remember these people, they're basically TV evangelist type of stuff. And I can't comment if this exists in, say, Canada or Australia. I'd be curious if you guys have this kind of stuff. But basically, it's just really fake people that go up on stage and just tell you how much they love God, and then they ask you for lots of money. That's what it boils down to. And they try to sell you a bunch of garbage crap, be it hats, T-shirts, etc. The other thing that is going on, not only is Trump hanging out with Musk, the person right next to Trump is Dana White. So I guess from Musk's point of view, his most important people, well, to be fair, are his family members. So he's got Eric Trump right behind him. And then he's got the UFC CEO and then the Tesla CEO. And they're just hanging out. What do you think they're talking about, right? Obviously, they're talking about business stuff. It should be obvious. This is Trump, too. And this is supposed to be like a somber funeral type event. And they got like fireworks there. And if you want to go through the 8 hours of everything, you totally can. But I'm just saying this is kind of what it is. And I'm sure Trump's going to say something stupid. He was talking on and on and on. I just watched like a second of it. It's like, okay, we've seen this game before. Stephen Miller's there. Rubio's there. Donnie Jr.'s there. And you can go through it. It's like literally the whole cabinet is there and all the family. And they're all going to say something. And it's basically a big campaign finance fundraiser kind of thing. It's essentially what this ends up being. And guys, I want to talk about this stuff because, every day it's frustrating because the corruption is like open and people don't have enough talk about it. We got to talk about this stuff. And, the more that you focus on other things other than corruption, your life doesn't get better because, why? You want a government in place that's actually for the people, not for the billionaires. So, for example, Trump's going to do his bread and circus, which is the UFC thing. So we're spending a bunch of money on the Charlie Kirk event, and I guess we're spending a bunch of taxpayer dollars to get this UFC event, right? And what does this boil down to? Like what kind of stuff is Trump interested in? Well, one, he would be like, hey, I want to build my Gaza Riviera, my Gaza resorts, my Gaza casinos, right? And this was leaked. They have a rendering out there what this thing could possibly look like. And then this is also something that came out today in Politico, which I want to talk with you, because it really illustrates how government can work if it's run by a bunch of corrupt people like Trump, right? And effectively, again, Trump and hanging out with Musk, who's interested in his government contracts, and then Dana White wants to get UFC, I guess. They want to do a week-long thing in Washington, D.C. So this says here, inside the billion-dollar promises fueling New York City's casino race. And I actually didn't know this was going on at the moment. Effectively what it is, there's all these developers out there who want to build new casinos in New York City. And if you guys are in New York, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this one. And if you know, right, Trump is a former casino owner who bankrupt said things, but that's what these people are interested in. And there's a lot of money involved in this stuff. And so the idea is that you bribe whatever government officials, make whatever said deals. But this whole thing is built on, though, is you pretend to be Christian and yet you're supporting casino operators who bankrupt people. I mean, because you guys know this, the house always wins. I mean, who doesn't know that? And so this is why when they show you all these fancy pictures and stuff, just remember it's all built on people going to casino and losing money. It's frankly sick. And a lot of this is sort of where the U.S. Economy is going, and effectively what that ends up being then, if you only have a few people owning the casinos, and then all the poor people, effectively you sell them the dream of, hey, you're going to be rich someday, and then they gamble all their money away, and that's why the society becomes the way that it is. And then you tell people, well, the reason why you're poor is because you lost at the casino. Keep betting, keep playing. And so then their mindset is like, oh, I have to keep going back to the casino. So sure, some people will benefit, but it's generally not going to be you because, again, the house always wins. So let's read a little bit about this stuff. And this is something that, again, I want to hear from people in New York City if you've heard about these things. It says, New York City casino developers have been dangling billions of dollars of incentives in front of officials deciding which projects to approve, right? So you got to get these things approved, including hundreds of millions of dollars that elected leaders would have a direct say in spending, okay? So what it boils down to is if I want to build said thing, I grease said politician, I create whatever slush fund, and then politician can stay in office because then they can say, hey, look at this park I built for you. But remember, all this stuff is built on that we're going to have all these new casino developments. And, for me personally, I don't want a casino on every block. That's just me. Maybe you guys live in a different world and you're like, no, Chris, you're so wrong. I love casinos, right? I want people to lose all of their money. Because this is exactly what I don't want. But remember, again, Trump is a former casino dude, right? That's essentially what he is. And so I've talked about stuff before on the channel to where he wants to turn all of America basically in his giant casino, sell his Trump coins, etc. And it'll even get more crazy if they completely deregulate everything, is what sort of Musk is also interested in, because then you're going to put out all sorts of products that will hurt consumers and you won't have any oversight on it, right? So eliminate FBI so you don't do any investigations on the corruption, eliminate any sort of regulations so you don't protect consumers. That's what this game is all about. Also says here, these offers all contingent on developers getting the green light to build or expand new casinos are part of the high-stakes scramble to secure up to 3 new casino licenses in or just outside the nation's biggest city. So that's actually quite a bit. 3 casinos around New York City. Like I said, I didn't know this stuff was going on. And then, like I was telling you before, they try to create slush fund sort of thing. So yes, and I'll be honest, yes, there'll be some benefits to local communities, but remember, it's all built on this casino industry. So for example, they're saying, hey, developers have pledged to build tens of thousands of units of new housing. Okay, so I'm not against new housing, but just you got to understand where the money's coming from, what it's built off of. Pay for a civil rights museum, right? So that helps, or not helps, sorry, that sort of gives a politician something to sell to their voters. Like, hey, new casinos coming in, we got a new museum. And I like museums, but I know where the money's coming from. So, I'd prefer just not have casino and still build the museum. And that's coming from Reverend Al Sharpton, provided childcare for Broadway workers' children and help deal with the gambling addictions. Like, what? Okay. So I guess we create jobs by having the casino, then we'll build a museum, and then I guess we have healthcare, but then we're going to also help people with gambling addiction. But if we didn't have the casino, we wouldn't have the addiction in the first place. And if we taxed billionaires, fairly, then we wouldn't even have this conversation at all, and things would already be funded. But this is the American system. But perhaps most notable is the $400 million a pair of developers who could put in the hands of elected officials. That's the kind of money we're talking about here. Bally's and the Coney. Okay. New casino developments pitched for the Bronx and Coney Island, and have separately offered to create $200 million for, quote, community funds that politicians would help control if the projects are approved. The money is supposed to be spent on supporting things like schools and nonprofits near the casino sites. And I actually grew up in Oregon, and I remember when they put in the Oregon lottery, they kept saying it would go to schools, and whether or not that ever ended up being the case, who knows? Because I also remember growing up in Oregon, they started switching over to things to where like students had to keep paying more and more. I remember because I grew up there, and it was just like, what the heck? Because Where's that lottery money going? And that's where it becomes, if politicians like, oh, well, maybe it goes to this one district, but not to this other district because it'll help me win elections in said place. And it just all becomes corrupt opposed to administering things, fairly and transparently. So there's that. Let's see what more this has to say. And again, this is how our system works in USA. Some developers have made other specific pledges about where they will spend the money. Again, it's all about money. Cohen, for instance, is promising to create a park and a food hall to improve the subway station that serves the casino site. So I guess the subway near the casino will be really, really nice. Resorts World, which it wants to expand the gambling offerings it already has at a racetrack in southeastern Queens, is offering a $1.5 billion package of benefits, including up to $750 million to help build as many as 50,000 housing units across the city. All this is in addition to what developers will pay to access the casino licenses at least $500 million, with some expected to offer more. So there's a lot of money flowing around, and we don't know exactly. And this is just one example of say, New York. But I'm telling you, like, this one example of the New York situation is sort of how the whole Trump administration works, right? It's all about who's going to get that government contract, who's going to deregulate stuff, who's going to, control said money. Because again, I'll be honest, there are some benefits for regular people, but it's all built upon this casino society, which I am not for. So I'd be curious again if this exists in other countries where like your whole economy is based on casinos. I mean, because the long-term effects is not going to be great. And then also for Trumpers, he always wants the Fed to cut rates as much as possible so that all these casino developers can borrow cash cheaply and make all of this kind of stuff, right? But ultimately, this is a massive bubble. I think you guys can see how this plays out over long term if everything's ruled by casino owners. We also got this. Here's what happens when big-time lobbyists become big-name Trump officials. It was this whole thing in Politico, which corroborates also with the Holman investigation into bribery. But basically, a lot of the Trump people, be it Susie Wiles or Pam Bondi or whoever, or the transportation secretary, I think that's Duffy, they also used to be consultants at various companies, or you can call them lobbyists. But essentially, their former ties, those companies are getting money from the government, right? Government contracts. There's a whole thing about that. And then why is Trump so interested in crypto? I think you guys can see where this is going. It makes it much easier to then funnel bribes in any number of ways so that no one knows about it. Even though we talk about this stuff all the time in the channel, I understand in mainstream media news or other YouTube channels, they don't talk about this kind of stuff because it's not exciting for people. But this is where the real money is at. It's in all of this developing kind of thing, right? It's in this corruption. And this is how all of the deregulations fit in. And this is why it matters when you see who is Trump sitting next to at this Charlie Kirk thing, that no one cares who Charlie Kirk is. I'm telling you, these people really don't care. You ask Trump, hey, what do you think about your friend Charlie Kirk? And Trump says like, hey, look at my new ballroom, right? And the ballroom's all about more corruption, so you can meet with more whatever people who want to develop whatever and try to get either deregulation or sweetheart deal contracts from the government. So again, follow the money. So that's my thoughts on this stuff. I'd like to hear yours, and I'll catch you all in the next video.